and we started doing this thing called pair programming. We're not crazy religious about it, but we do it in general. We subscribe to it, and that is that you have two people writing code together on the same, working on the same subsystem, and what that allows for is much more communication between those two people. So they get to know each other. There's more camaraderie. They're communicating. You also get sort of built-in redundancy. Now they both know how the code works. So if one guy gets sick or leaves the company or whatever, this guy knows how the whole thing works. You also get built-in code reviews because they're kind of checking each other's work as they go along. So that speeds up that process. And so you get all this in one, and it makes everything better. And then overall, you've broken up the system into subparts such that something can break, like uploading avatar pictures can break, but that's the only thing that's broken at the time. So it's not that big. It's not great, but it's not that big a deal because the system is still working. And then the folks who know how to fix that start working on it. So what was really fascinating for me was that I realized that this approach was not necessarily unique to engineering. Just because we did it in engineering didn't mean that it couldn't be cloned and used in other aspects of the business. So as soon as we got started getting our act together, I mean, there's still tons of work to do there, but and we're going to hit new and interesting challenges and walls as we continue to grow at this crazy pace. But what I realized was like, well, okay, so if that was our engineering situation before, what other totally screwed up part of our company are we not paying attention to right now that could use this same kind of approach? And neither Evan and I had ever grown a company past like 15 employees. So that was actually, I was originally, I helped do a lot of early product stuff, but I was the creative director. I had no staff, so I just gave myself a fancy title, creative director. But that was my part of Twitter until we got to about 15 or 20 people, and I started to get freaked out and realized that we'd never gone past this point and that we were going to have to start focusing a lot of attention on what was happening internally. We couldn't just think about it as a web project anymore. We had to think about it more holistically. Anyway, so we said, wow, that was pretty good, that engineering effort, and then we turned our eyes towards like business operations in general, you know, facilities, costs, all this stuff, and you know, what are we not looking at there? That could really kill us if you know, if all of a sudden we get a bill from India, an SMS like, oh yeah, you owe us $50 million. We've been forgetting to send you the bill, so we're like, what? And you know, that was entirely possible the way that we were just rocking and rolling through the stuff. So we hired a great vice president of business operations to shine that same kind of light on stuff that Greg Pass, our director of engineering, did for the technical side of things. And that's what we've been kind of doing ever since. And now we're into a new phase where we're trying to, like I said, answer the question, what does it mean to have a company? But also, Evan is very interested in not just innovation on the product side, but innovation on the company side as well, because we've really got a unique situation going on here. There's something like 11,000 registered Twitter applications, and those are just the ones that have gone through the trouble of creating a source parameter so that they all can essentially both read and write to Twitter. And there are many more, and there will continue to be more that are just based off search and that you don't require any kind of authentication or anything like that. They're just doing interesting things with the data. So I forgot where was I headed with this thing. Oh, so innovating from the company standpoint is like, okay, let's say we have 50 employees, but we really have, you know, thousands of developers working on Twitter. So Twitter is actually bigger than it seems from a company standpoint. So there is already kind of something innovative going on there, which is that we're open as much as possible and only closed when we need to be, which is different from a lot of companies that will sort of peel back a corner and say, like, you can play with this part. It's completely flipped around to the point where, you know, we're just open everything and then realize, well, we can't open that part, it'll break everything. You know, and either close it and we've done this before, where we've had to close parts down and fix them so they work and then put them back up again. But I'd rather do that than get everything right all behind doors and then be like, okay, you can add this. That's worked for us. So Evan's very interested in sort of innovating from a company standpoint. So we're already beginning to think about, you know, what the hierarchy of Twitter is, because we don't think it's a hierarchy of people. We don't think it's like a hierarchy of knowledge per se. We think it's more of a hierarchy of attention. Who's focusing on what and when, and so teams are forming within Twitter based on their roles, their cross-functional roles, and what they know about and what they're good about. And one of the early successes is the mobile team. We hired this guy named Kevin to just, you know, start looking at this SMS situation, because SMS, like I said before, is super inspiring to us. We want it to work around the world, but the way we set it up at first is we were paying for everyone's SMSs, and it wasn't going to work, because as the system grew worldwide, so too would the SMS bills. And you know, early on that was no big deal. We're like, this is great, free SMS for everybody. And then people started joining like crazy and doing SMS, and we're like, uh-oh. The bills are going to be the same, and the bills are going to grow until there's no more money left in the world to pay them. So that was one of the things we had to turn off, I think a year ago or something. We had to just say, okay, no more free SMS for everyone around the world, just the United States, because we had a good deal there. And what we did then is we hired Kevin to just slowly bring country by country, carrier by carrier, by doing individual deals back on one by one. And so now we've got all of Canada on, all of the US on, all of New Zealand on, and parts of Europe and other, you know, and he's working fast and furious, because people want their Twitter. You know, like the phone companies are getting calls from customers like, why can't we have Twitter? What the hell? Especially, I think the Australians are going to be like, New Zealand gets it. And our Australian users are great, because they're like so passionate. You know what I mean? Like, they always notice that, like, you took the service down for planned maintenance at this time, and like, do you know what time that is in Australia? It's prime twittering time. And we're like, oh, it's always prime twittering time somewhere. Yeah, so thinking about, you know, what a hierarchy means, because Evan and I might have a clear picture. Like if you imagine a big crisp circle, we may have a pretty clear picture of where the whole thing is headed, and then someone who heads up, you know, someone who heads up mobile maybe doesn't know that it has a fuzzier version of that overall circle, but his circle is real crisp. And inside his circle, they're also fuzzier on the bigger circle of mobile, but have a real crisp idea of like the SMS stack and what that looks like. So you have these crisp circles all within the organization. Let's bring the ones that know the things together and make that a team. So in other words, kind of introduce this concept of emergence into the way we structure Twitter itself, such that a team can be formed based on the people who know about it. So Kevin, for example, came on, just do SMS deals, but he went much further than that. He said, no. I think the charter for a mobile team that I'd like to set up at Twitter should be delivering an excellent user experience over all of mobile, no matter what. And so that includes m.twitter.com, mobile devices, SMS, and you know, many other things. And he said, I need these two engineers, this designer, and you know, this support person, and that's going to be the mobile team, and we're going to kick ass. And so we've been doing that and trying to find other places where that makes sense as well. And sometimes the teams are kind of they're not forever. They're just to do this one thing, and then they break apart again, and they reform later, and they do something else. So it's something we're experimenting with. I'm not saying that this is like the definite future model for everything, but the fun thing is that we get to explore these new different ways of setting up a company, because it's our company. We can do whatever we want.